Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are in the world when you're listening to this. My name is Anne-Marie Beggs. I am the owner of a business called The Paragraph Challenge, and I'm recording an interview with Rebecca O Brien, who I met at Nina's Suicide Awareness Fund Day. Rebecca has a lot of insights, I think, to share with us about her life in general, from childhood up to today. So welcome, Rebecca. It's lovely to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. So I'm Rebecca, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm 26 now, but when I was 15, I was diagnosed with autism. And so, I'm gone blank. Sorry.
That's all right. So when prior to the diagnosis, how did you find life, Rebecca? So probably take you back to primary school. How was your primary school experience?
Very difficult. Yeah, especially kind of looking back on it, because it was so difficult then, but I was a child. I couldn't really understand why it was so difficult.
Sure.
But thinking back, I'm like, it was really hard. I always found it hard to kind of make friends and then keep friends.
Sure.
And
were you in a mixed school, or were you in a girls' school, Rebecca?
All girls school.
All girls school, which kind of brings with it its own challenges, doesn't it?
Now, I don't really understand why there even is all girls schools and all boys schools, because that's not life.
No, that's true. But I think it does. I mean, my eldest daughter went to an all girls school. She absolutely loved it. But like you said, she didn't know anything different. And for her, it was a very positive experience. But I mean, I have other members in my extended family who have been in all girls or all boys schools, and they've had very negative experiences. And I think if you're not, I suppose, a person who fits into this neat little box of the academic child who can just plod along, then it makes it much more difficult, doesn't it? And so did you struggle academically in primary school?
No. So I think I came across as this person who fit into that academic box.
Sure, yeah.
Because I was a perfectionist.
Okay.
And everything had to be perfect. So even like my handwriting, I won all the handwriting awards, but then at the same time I was being praised for it, but I was also being given out to because I worked too slowly, because my handwriting, like I focused on it being so neat that in primary school it didn't show as much. That kind of started in secondary school really being an issue. But yeah, in primary school it was still like I was a perfectionist, and I think the reason it kind of went unnoticed was because I kind of stress out, but I'd keep it all inside, and then I'd come home and I'd cry.
Yeah, and I think that's typical of most neurodiverse people, that they do appear like well behaved and stuff at school. I mean, some of them obviously go completely the opposite way to distract from their difficulties. Their behavior will be dreadful, but a lot of people will come home and then they have a big meltdown and they're crying because the stress, it has to go somewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Otherwise your head would explode.
Yeah, that's why it's interesting the way you said that some people it goes the other way.
Yeah.
Because it's the same as the way I was saying I did fit into that academic box, which with autism, because it's a spectrum, there are people with autism who wouldn't be that academic, who who people wouldn't consider academic, but that's not that's just what people see on the outside. But
yeah,
I was the type where a lot of autistic people, they struggle with what's the word? What's the word?
What are you trying? So what are you
developmental,
emotional development, or
I have a word and I can't think of it.
That's all right, don't worry, it'll come back to you. That's your perfectionism trying to figure that out. I'm always losing
So
words, but I have an excuse, I'm old.
kind of like the way, so the spectrum is so broad
It
that
is,
there are some kids who are nonverbal and
yeah.
some of them might start speaking, some of them might not. And then there are other kids who um
Yeah, they're very highly developed,
yes.
very
So
articulate.
I started speaking like at a very young age, and I had a really big vocabulary from a very young age.
Yeah.
And I think that's a stereotype that kind of people see with autism, and that, oh, but you're clever, you know? But
Yeah,
then there's
you're
people
right. People
who
have
are
an idea in their head of an autistic person. Oh,
yeah,
Mark, sorry, an autistic person who, yeah, doesn't speak.
mhm,
They appear to others that they're not very bright, but
yeah,
as we all know, that's just an old, outdated belief that they're
yeah,
actually very intelligent. It's just we can't tap into the intelligence of them. It's not the other way around, really. It's just the
exactly,
way
yeah.
society is
But
constructed.
then there is that other stereotype of, oh, you're autistic, you must be a genius.
Yeah,
So
this is true.
there's,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's really one extreme to the other, where when I was diagnosed, I've never been good at maths at all.
Okay.
But when I was diagnosed, I was, oh my gosh, what if I'm like Einstein now? And
You become brilliant.
I went into maths and I was all confident, being like, I must be good at maths now. No, still just as bad, never improved. Um, so yeah, definitely a stereotype. But yeah,
So
uh,
what happened when you went to secondary school, Rebecca? Was
secondary
that a
school,
mixed environment or was that all
that was
girls?
girls as well. So I think secondary school is hard for any teenager, any
It
12,
is,
13
yeah.
year old, because you're going into a whole new environment and it's so different to primary school. I don't think primary school prepares you for secondary school at all.
It doesn't, I agree. And even less now since the whole break with COVID but
Mhm.
it doesn't like prepare kids like emotionally or academically really because
Exactly. Yeah.
there's just such a huge gap in the academics between sixth class and
Yeah.
first
It's
year.
like,
And then
yeah.
there's a huge gap in, I suppose, expectations and
Mhm.
how you're supposed to behave. And you're supposed to go from being a child to like being an adult, really.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be able to, get yourself around a big school, like 40 minutes here, 40 minutes somewhere else. And I mean, the vast majority of kids don't have the capability to do that. And so I suppose the overwhelm is enormous. But then if you add into that anybody that has is autistic or dyslexic or like the dyslexic kids mightn't be able to read the names on the classrooms, the autistic kids might struggle with the amount of people that are moving through a corridor. I mean, in the school close to me, it used to be two separate buildings. It's now one, all stuck on top of another, and 1,400 kids moving
No
around
way.
corridors. So you can imagine what that's like.
Yeah. I just want to imagine what that is.
So I can imagine that like for you going into that environment with like different timetables, lots more people, a lot more girls probably than even were in your primary school. And like you said, everyone's expected to have developed over like a 3-month period into a completely different human, really, to function in its longer day and sitting still for a lot. And teachers, I think, have different expectations, don't they, of someone who's 13 than they do of the child that was 12 3 months
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. But I think as well the hard thing with secondary school is your your friends from primary school might be going to different secondary schools. So with
Yeah,
me, I found it so hard to make friends and then to keep those friends. That was a major, like, really difficult for me because the friends I had made at the time, they went to different schools.
yeah,
So this was like really daunting because
yeah.
I like this expectation to quick make friends.
I
Uh,
know. And so your little circle is of support.
yeah, and I remember I'd come home from school every day and I'd be so upset because I'd be like, everyone else has friends and everyone's talking about their friends at home and things like that, and I just couldn't relate. Um,
Yeah.
so that was, I think that's a hard part for a lot of people,
I
even.
agree, because I have a lot of teenagers now, students who are around 14. And I think what each of them don't know is that these groups might look like they all have friends, but I think there's a lot more teenagers in first year that don't have friends. It's just nobody tells each other. And
Yeah,
I suppose the schools could do a little bit more to try and get kids to engage in a more, I don't know, relaxed environment, because it's very hard to make friends if you're moving from
yeah,
class to class in a short space of time. And lunch breaks are so short now that there's not a lot of, like, you hear a lot
yeah,
of people who homeschool, when you talk about homeschooling, they go, oh no, you won't have good social skills if you homeschool. But like, kids in school don't have a lot of time to socialize
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
So, sorry, someone just walked into the room. So I'm just telling my husband to take the dog out. Sorry about that little interlude, Rebecca. So that was first year. So how did, like, as you got towards the junior cert, had you made any friends? Had things got worse for you in school, or
It kind of, it was the same. It
the
was,
same?
I kept struggling. Um, I kept struggling with
Yeah.
friendships.
So was it
Um,
very stressful?
yeah, and then coming up to the junior cert, that's when everything kind of um got too overwhelming. I remember going to the school chaplain one day, and I went in and I was like, I need help. And she was
I
like,
mean, that's very
"Oh,"
brave.
and I was like, I have no idea. I had no idea, but I was putting a lot of pressure on myself academically.
Sure.
And like I said, I was a perfectionist. So, and then like I said earlier, obviously that is more, it gets more in the way in secondary school, because I'd be doing exams and
Yeah.
I wouldn't finish the exams, not because I didn't know the answers, but because I'd be writing the answers and then I'd rub it out and then I'd write it again and then I'd rub it out and I'd write it again, and it still wouldn't be good enough. And,
Okay. Yeah.
and projects I did art projects, and like I did art for the junior cert, and the night before the project was due, I brought it home, which I shouldn't have done because I ripped it up and I did the whole thing all over again. Um, so I didn't do art for the leaving cert.
It's
uh,
funny because my eldest daughter did art for the junior cert, and I never had any natural talent for art, but I did it for the junior cert. And, like, I was grand, but I had no inbuilt talent in me, and it was very different in those days anyway. And so I thought it was a nice, relaxing subject. And I said to her, why are you not doing it for the leaving? Oh, it's the most stressful thing. And she
yeah,
goes, I don't like the teacher either. So she wouldn't do it. She did history instead. That was not any more relaxing. But
yeah,
but yeah, people do, I suppose, have a perception that, like, it's just art. But like you said, and most people, funnily enough, whether they're autistic or not autistic, who are like actual artists, are so perfectionist. Like, my
yeah.
sister could paint beautiful pictures. Like, wow, that's lovely. And like 5 minutes later, it'd be shredded up. Like, oh God, I'd never do that if I spent hours on something. So I could just picture
Like,
you
for
there
me,
the night before.
yeah, for me, that's the reason I avoid art completely. Even have you heard of Zentangle?
No.
So when I was in John of God's Hospital, and they'd have occupational therapy during the day, but it'd be different things. So they'd have, like, sometimes they'd have yoga, then they'd have table quizzes. It was just all different things during the day. And there was this thing called Zentangle,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like an art therapy thing. Uh,
Okay.
and it's basically doodling, but like it's it's a specific occupational therapy art. And
Okay.
I used to go, and it's literally just you draw a shape and then you just keep going, like with
Okay.
just
Yeah. I
like
mean, yeah, I
you
know what
build.
you mean, because
Yeah.
I doodle an awful lot when I'm talking.
So this So in hospital, this is meant to, be relaxing for you. I left. I just got up and left. First, I ripped it up, but I did it silently because I was like, people are going to think I'm weird. So I did it silently. Then I got another piece of paper and I tried again. Then I got another piece and I was like, this isn't going well. And I just got up and left. And like, it's the thing
So
that was meant,
that was the
yeah, the thing
opposite
that
to relaxing.
was it was meant to be mindful. Like it was mindful drawing.
Yeah.
No, it did not work out. Yeah, I
So,
kind of
because
got
you're probably
that.
quite good at being mindful. You're trying
Um,
to get outside you're trying to relax your mind, not make it more intense.
yeah. But like for most people, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. I made a mistake. I'll just keep going. For me, it's, oh, I can't.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I have a little girl, like one of my students were writing a book and she's illustrating it.
Oh,
And
deadly.
she's the illustrator and the two boys are writing it. I mean, it's highly entertaining, but she's like, you're like, I'll say, oh, that's really good because I can't draw people like to save my life. And she go, no, hair's not right. Mom going, but like,
Yeah.
grand. But then I just leave her because if that's what she wants to do, that's what she wants to do. And like I said, I'm not an artist, so I'm not going to be criticizing her. So it was after you went to the Chaplin, was it that you that she did she get you help or
Yeah. So
yes?
then I saw a school psychologist, which is funny because I didn't even know we had a school psychologist, but I guess you don't know until you
Yeah.
end
I
up
mean,
there
wouldn't
yourself.
it, is it a pity that you didn't know though? Because maybe when you were struggling in first year, you might have just thought, well, oh, there is some options for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So
oh, I
the chaplain
forgot.
referred you to the psychologist and then,
Yeah. And she was lovely. So I was
okay,
really
great.
lucky because that was a good start. It probably would have gone another way if the first person who I was open with and kind of was getting help from, it probably would have gone differently if that was a bad experience. So
Sure.
I was that um initially that the help I got, I was taken seriously, and I was sent to the school psychologist straight away. So I was lucky in that sense because I could have just been told like, oh, it's don't be silly, like it's the junior cert, of course you're stressed.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, so she was lovely, and that's when I was referred to Lucina Clinic,
Okay.
uh, which is where I got my diagnosis. Um so I went for help for my mental health. I
You
didn't
had no
even know,
idea.
I had no idea. So
Yeah.
I went and I was expecting to be diagnosed with anxiety or depression because that's all I knew about. That's all I knew.
Sure.
And it's so different now. It's great. It's so different now. The teenagers are a lot more informed and there is more kind of knowledge out there.
There is
But
definitely, yeah. I
at
think
the
the
time,
teenagers are better informed than the adults a lot of the time.
yeah, but at the time, I just knew like, oh, it must be depression or anxiety. And that's kind of the only,
Yeah, but
that's
and
kind
like
of would be.
they have to
Um,
come from somewhere though, don't they? Like they don't just
yeah,
pop up. And doctors years ago were great for just going, oh yeah, you just have depression. You just have
yeah,
anxiety. But like there's always a root cause of depression and anxiety. They're not just
yeah.
there.
So when I was diagnosed, my parents went, "Oh my God, everything makes sense now." They
Yeah.
actually like it completely just clicked with them. For me, I actually stormed out of the building.
Yeah, I know.
And
Well, it's a lot to take on. And when I met you, you had oh, a very good saying that I liked that I'd never heard anybody before, where I was saying something to you about like labels or something, and you had a much better way of explaining it. Do you remember what you said? Mm. You said
was
that
about
it was good.
diagnosed being
Yeah,
clarity.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
not a, yeah.
yeah, like a
You
lot
said
of
a label is something that's on a package, or I don't know. You had a very good way of explaining
a
what
lot
the
of people don't
difference.
like to be diagnosed because they don't want to be labeled.
Yes.
But a diagnosis is so much more than a label. The label itself doesn't matter. It's
Mhm.
what the diagnosis can help you with. So it's about getting those accommodations and getting those. So because I was diagnosed then, I was able to get a laptop for school, so I could finish my exams on
Sure.
time and things like that. But if I hadn't have had a diagnosis, just for the fact that I didn't want a label, then I wouldn't have gotten that help. So
Yeah.
I think,
I know, because I have a student actually, and in his mocks, he's very highly academic, but he's very specific about the things that he likes, and he has a good circle of friends. He doesn't have anxiety because he has a passion that he follows, and he doesn't care if anyone else likes it or not. But in his
right,
mock exams, he didn't pass his English, but he got 100% on every question that he did, but he just wrote far too much information. But like
oh
you
no,
said, then but somebody who didn't know him looking from the outside would just think, oh, he's not very clever, he didn't pass English, but he just is very clever, he's just too clever for his own good, and just writing
yeah,
too much.
that's
I mean,
mad.
it is, yeah. So that, I mean, there's so many different factors that I suppose are not taken into account in an exam, isn't there? It's just a tiny little snapshot, and nobody knows whether the person was sick or anxious, or the brain was just too much information like his, or perfectionist like you. There's just so many different possibilities why
Yeah,
somebody.
like you can't have one way for everyone, and that's kind of the thing with school. It is
It
one way.
is. It's my pet hate, Rebecca.
Yeah, I
It'll
just
take a long time to change, I think,
definitely,
unfortunately.
but I just think it's so wrong.
It is so wrong. Like there's like so many different ways that people could be educated.
Hmm.
Like sitting, it doesn't actually make sense for somebody just to sit in the one spot for an hour and expect information just to go in, when
Yeah,
you'll be out exploring and experiencing it, and then you take it into yourself in a much more relaxed way as well.
definitely.
I remember my youngest daughter, she went to Montessori school till she was 10. She absolutely loved it. Everything after that she hated. But I remember when she was 3, she was doing a project on Italy or something like that. And we went to Italy, and she kept saying, we have to go and see Pompeii. So we went to see it, and we went to see all the ruins and everything. But like she knew so much about that because of a project she'd done. And then we went to see it. Where if you just read that from a book, it's
It's not
not
as
as
interesting.
interesting, is it? No. And the other thing, this will really entertain me. We went to the Louvre in Paris, and she went up to the man. She was only about 3 as well, and she goes, have you got the picture of the blue boy and some other picture?" And I was going, "How does she know?" I was going, "This school is great." And then I said to her, "Where did you learn about that?" And she goes, "On Nickelodeon." It's from iCarly.
So
So
funny.
it is funny, but you see, because I mean, I was always don't watch too much TV and stuff like that, but like you can learn information anywhere. It just goes to show, because like she
Learn
just
from
looked
that.
like this like really smart small kid, but she learned it off Nickelodeon.
So funny.
So after the junior cert, what happened, Rebecca? So when did you go into John of God's? Was that after school or during school?
This was the leaving cert.
The
So
leaving cert.
in the middle of sixth year.
In the middle of 6th year, okay.
So that's when I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And
Okay.
that was the moment it clicked. So that was kind of, it was the way my parents felt, I felt, but with this diagnosis. And I was thinking, there's literally this diagnosis that describes my whole personality to a T. I just thought, like, wow, finally things make sense. Um, and I kind of assumed, now that I'm diagnosed with that, like, oh, the autism diagnosis was wrong. No, turns out I am still autistic. I'm just I'm mentally ill. But even though it is common for
So
girls to be.
can you tell people who don't know what borderline personality disorder is, how does that like exhibit itself?
So it's also, it can be called emotionally unstable personality disorder.
Okay, which
I
is
thought was
easier.
funny because I didn't know that you could actually be emotionally unstable. I thought that was a joke, like, or, like I thought like being emotionally stable or whatever. I didn't know it was actually a thing. I was like, I can't believe I'm literally diagnosed as being emotionally unstable. So that's that explains it better, I suppose, than borderline personality disorder.
Yeah,
But it's all about emotional dysregulation. So it's kind of when people describe bipolar, you know, the way
yeah,
it's such a stereotype and people are like, the weather is so bipolar.
yeah.
They're more so describing borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
Whereas bipolar, they are similar, but with bipolar, it's long bouts of depression and then long bouts of being
Hi.
manic. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the words, you know, that they use.
It
But
is, yeah.
with borderline personality disorder, it's kind of like a mood swing thing, is how you like,
Sure. And they're shorter, so
yeah, so 1 minute you could be really stressed and then the next you could be over it. When I say minute, obviously it's not like that,
no,
but
but
I
I
mean,
do know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah. So when people kind of what people kind of think bipolar is basically what borderline personality disorder is. So it's basically just it's hard to control my emotions.
Okay.
It's a fear of abandonment, a fear of rejection, which really explains my problem with friendship even
Sure.
more than
Okay.
the
And
autism diagnosis.
so do you think is that linked to the autism, do you think?
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
because I remember someone asked me recently, if I was diagnosed with autism sooner, would I have struggled with my mental health? And it's a good question. Obviously, there's no
Does
way to know for sure, but there's the connection. So there's that. So maybe if I had known I was autistic from a young age, I might not have struggled with friendship so much.
yeah.
And
The
and
world
then
was very different as well when you were younger. So I
yeah,
suppose there would have been pros and cons. I think nowadays
yeah,
everybody is much more accepting, aren't they?
but it was
When
so
you were younger, the autism label, it wasn't as friendly, let me say. People
yeah,
had
we
that
had yeah,
old-fashioned idea in their heads. So maybe you would have been treated different.
yeah,
So
and
maybe that
I wouldn't have been diagnosed because there was no kind of criteria
for
for
someone
girls.
who looked like you.
And yeah,
I don't mean
no, I
visually
know,
like you. I mean your whole persona.
yeah. So e even now, like now I'm an SNA now. So when I'm working in a school and I see young girls and I kind of think, how was I not like how was this not noticed in me? Like it
Yeah.
makes no sense. Um
And were you
but
a chatty or a quiet child, Rebecca?
it depended. Um yeah, it depended. If I was comfortable, I was chatty.
Okay.
Um but I kind of liked to stay kind of quiet because I was scared to not fit in or say the wrong thing.
Right.
Um, so yeah, or it's like again, it's a common thing with autistic people. If it was something I was interested in, I could talk for
For
days.
hours.
Yeah, when it's other things, I'm always thinking, what should I say next? Is this the right thing to say?
Yeah.
And like that. So I still don't know now. I know I just said like it seems so obvious, but also I still don't know now if it would have been noticed either because
Yeah.
again, I suppose that's masking and that's
Yeah.
a big reason why a lot of women don't get diagnosed
Yeah.
until
They do say that, don't they? That girls and women are better at hiding. I think they're better at hiding everything. Because
yeah,
even if I have a student who's dyslexic, the boys are like, oh no, not doing
yeah,
it, can't do it. No, I'm not reading, I hate reading. And the girls come and in school they will have looked like they were reading because they'll
yeah,
basically rabbit out the information because they've
mhm,
worked so hard on it. And the parents will go, oh no, but they can read. Yeah, well, they can't read because they
yeah,
can't they can't recall any of the information, so therefore that's
yeah,
not reading. And the same with the girls who are autistic or the girls who are dyspraxic or ADHD, the ADHD girls are very, very different to the boys. The boys are sometimes the bouncing around ones, and like ADHD does not always look like that. Everyone thinks they're all running around bouncing off walls. Like
Yeah.
it's not really like that at all. And so you're 26 now and you're working as an SNA.
Yeah.
And are you enjoying that, Rebecca?
Yeah, definitely. So it took me so many years to figure out what I wanted to do. And that was kind of hard as well. The way I was saying, like with school, it's like you're expected to do it one way is the right way.
Yeah.
You do your leaving cert,
Oh, I had no idea what I wanted to do in it.
you go to college,
I know.
you have in sixth year you decide what you want to do, you put it on paper, and then you get the points and you go and you do it. Like that's kind of the expected way to go.
And I think very few people are doing that now, though. A lot of people, my daughter's age, are taking a year off and they're going traveling, or they're doing like a job for a year to give themselves, I suppose, time for the brain to have a rest after that lovely experience of the leaving cert.
When I was in school, it was kind of, that was what everyone was doing. It was filling out the CAO. That's what it's called.
It is, right? Yeah, the CAO. Yeah, the CAO.
Whatever. And I think a lot of people kind of feel pressured to go for what course is the highest point. So a lot of people would put down like medicine or law or something just because they feel like
look smart. Yeah.
Like, but I missed half of sixth year because I was in hospital. So originally I wasn't even going to do the leaving cert. And then my mom said to me, you're going to have to do it next year. So I just thought, no, I'll just get it out of the way because I'm going to have to do it either way.
Yeah.
So I just, once I passed, and then that's fine. But then I somehow got into Maynooth. I somehow got enough points to do English and German and psychology in Maynooth. So because I got in, I went. I didn't think about it, like.
No, what you mean? It's just like you're on a little treadmill.
I was like, how did I manage to do that? So I thought, okay, I got in, I better go. I stayed for a couple of months and then I deferred. I never went back, but it was just because I got in, I jumped at it and went, okay, I better go. But
and what did you not like about it, Rebecca?
I loved Maynooth and I loved the subjects. I just realized that I found school so hard, I found exams so hard. So I was thinking, now I have the choice not to experience that stress.
Sure.
So I can choose not to, go through all that. In school, you don't have a choice at all.
No.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I just went through these years of stress and anxiety. So why am I putting myself through it again when I don't have to? And then I realized, so I left college and then I kind of realized that it wasn't really for me. So just the structure of exams and things like that. So that's why it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do. Because
I went to Maynooth as well for a while as well. And I was living in Malahide. It's a lovely college, but I had a very long journey. I had to walk from my house and take 2 trains and all that. And I had no social circle. And I was very quiet at the time. Now I was probably a little bit like you. I was quiet until I knew people, and then I'd be chatty. But like when I went into the maths lectures, like there's 400 or 500 people sometimes in this, and I'm going, okay, I don't know anybody. And then I did make some friends, but they all lived down there. And so I enjoyed the classes and the people, but I didn't enjoy the environment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because I was 17, a bit like you're talking about going from primary school to secondary school. From my secondary school to going to the college, it was too different and an environment
Yeah,
for me.
it's,
I just didn't have
yeah.
any, and I always wanted to go to Trinity College, but did I work hard enough to get there? No, I was like a good student, but not a great student,
Mhm.
and because I didn't like studying too much. And if someone had told me, well, just to, like, do the year and then go to Trinity, you can go back a year and then go in. But at the time I was going, oh no, I remember I didn't do well in the exams. My dad goes, oh, you can repeat them at the end of the summer. I was going, yeah, that's what I'll do. That's what I'll do. I just never did it. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, now I think, well, science was something I was very passionate about, and I still love science, even though now I do teaching, and I do like both.
Hmm.
And I suppose if I had been maybe 21 or 20 or something, then I probably would have stayed, but I
Yeah,
just wasn't socially, I suppose, equipped for college, really.
that's the thing with the whole, like, you feel like you have to finish school and go to college,
Yeah.
and that's what gets in the way of, like you said, maybe if you were 21 it would have been different, because it's not so much that you didn't like
It wasn't
more
that I didn't like the topic, the
the whole
subject.
experience,
Yeah,
not being ready for it.
exactly. And yeah, so I suppose it's a big expectation, isn't it? So then when you decided anyway, college wasn't for you, what did you do then, Rebecca?
I went to work in Tesco.
Good job. Yes, I went to work in a supermarket too, much to my dad's horror.
Yeah, so I deferred, like I said, I was gonna go back the next year and then I just kind of never did. So I worked in Tesco for a few years, but during that I was kind of in and out of hospital again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then after COVID, um, just before COVID, I was in hospital. So I decided then not to go back to Tesco because that was hard as well. Tesco it was like repeating school for me because it was I was trying to fit in. It was kind of a young crowd, and I it was just history repeating itself.
Sure.
I wanted to fit in. I wanted friends, and for some reason, even though now I know why I struggled with that,
Yeah,
um, but it was still frustrating. Like, just
I
why
know.
isn't the why can't I just be normal?
Yeah.
Um,
I,
so I think
yeah,
the hard lesson I realized is that, like, cliques don't stop in school.
they
Like,
don't, they
it
don't
doesn't,
stop it.
like, I just assumed, like, logically you become an adult, you're mature. That doesn't happen. Like, I just thought, like, I'm
No.
an adult and everyone will be more mature, and like no one will be left out because that's what adults do, and I was so wrong.
Yeah, unfortunately, and you would expect people to evolve, but not everybody does. Some people remain, I would call them bitchy,
Yeah,
and they're just those, I suppose, type of people. Although sometimes by the time they get to about 40 and they've kids of their own, then that's when they change, when they realize, well, like, I have to be nice to these other little human beings if I want them to be. But it does take a long time for people to change. And I worked in a supermarket too. And it's quite, people think these jobs are easy. They're not easy jobs.
oh no, like,
I
really.
worked on a checkout
Yeah,
when I was in my first year of college, and I stayed. Then he gave me a job in the office, which is how I got into accountancy and all that in my prior life. But like he'd be like, no talking. So it's exactly like being in school. No
yeah,
talking, talk to go quick, go quick, go quick. So it's still pressure. It's just coming from a different source. And
yeah. I
the
remember.
monotony of it is very tiring on your brain, and no daylight, which I hate,
Yeah,
artificial light. So I mean, anyone who thinks working in Tesco is an easy job, like it's just not.
and it's such, like, it's the biggest, like, place for sensory overload.
It is.
Uh,
That's just, yeah,
like, supermarkets are,
bangs and noises and
yeah,
crashing
like, supermarkets.
trolleys.
I think for a lot of neurodivergent people, supermarkets are a nightmare. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, just for so many reasons. So that was another kind of thing of not being so self-aware. Because even though
Yeah,
I did have my diagnosis, I still, because I refused the autism diagnosis for so long, and at this point I was kind of coming to terms with it, but I still wasn't quite there yet. It wasn't until I was in my 20s, probably about 2 years ago, that I really accepted it, and that I really
sure.
started kind of like get, like
That there's
understand
just,
myself,
sure.
because I was just so in denial, and it was more so kind of the external invalidation that kind of just made me go, no, I'm not even going to think about it anymore, because I just get shut down every time. So if I said to someone I'm autistic, they most of the time say, but you don't look autistic.
Yeah.
And, and that just made me afraid to tell people. So eventually I just stopped talking about it. And it was never because I was ashamed of being autistic. It was just no one seemed to take it seriously. So I
Yeah.
stopped that. And like I said, thing with a diagnosis, it's good because it gives you those accommodations. So, but in work, it was like I was back in school again. I was afraid to say, actually, I'm autistic. Um,
And I suppose it depends who you're speaking to as well, doesn't it? So
yeah,
if you're saying that to somebody who's not very well informed, like they'll immediately either have a positive or a negative reaction to that. They'll, some people are just very ignorant, and they might immediately say, okay, well, we don't need her in the group because she's autistic and we don't hang
yeah,
around with autistic people, but I think the amount of misinformation and I suppose ignorance in a way that comes with a lot of diagnoses is very unfortunate. And I think we could do a better job in schools and in workplaces, like educating, not just supporting people like you, but educating the rest of the workforce into like, so this is what, this is, and
yeah,
rather than, because people are kind of in work environments a lot of the time are just left to their own devices, and
yeah,
companies aren't really concerned if the employees are treating each other like in a nice way.
yeah. I think now I'm more self-aware. So like I said, I probably now I know that it would be ridiculous for me to go and work in a supermarket.
But it's true,
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
like I was thinking at the time, but
I
now
know
I'm
you
like,
hadn't given any thought to whether you're going to like all that amount of bright light
yeah.
or
But
the
it was the
level
same
of noise
thing
or,
through. I thought, okay, I got in, let's go.
yeah.
And
But I
I
think that's young people in general. I
yeah,
mean, you have to push boundaries and you have to be brave
yeah,
and find out what doesn't work.
yeah. But I did learn a lot from Tesco. I matured a lot
Well,
because
so did I, because I was working in a supermarket. You learn to communicate with people.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, I was on the checkouts, and at the start I cried a lot. Like, people are rude.
Oh, see, they weren't as rude years ago. Nowadays, they're very rude. So
Yeah,
ignorant and like, yeah, they say awful things, I hear them. And
yeah,
both of my daughters one of them still working in retail in London, and she said, like, she's working in Lululemon. People literally throw clothes at them.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's just like you just wouldn't do that in a normal day to day. You wouldn't be getting them going
I
take
know.
down like you're going, oh my God.
Yeah, so I used to cry,
Yeah.
but then I toughened up a bit, and now it's I guess it's kind of a similar attitude to how I've started. Like I said, in my 20s is when I started to accept I'm autistic. Now, if you tell me, but you don't look autistic, I don't care. Do
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah, you have to grow a thick
if
skin.
a customer was rude to me by the end of my time working there, I don't care. I didn't say I don't care, but I didn't cry anymore. And
Yeah. I mean, because
I'm
the
not
problem's
afraid.
theirs, not yours.
Yeah, and I'm not afraid anymore to say I'm autistic, because I used to be like, so I'd say it and then I'd regret it and I'd be like, oh God, what's the response going to be? Now I'm like, it doesn't matter what their response is.
No,
They
you're
don't
right.
decide. I'm kind of like, I've told you I'm autistic. That's that. I'm not inviting you to have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
Like, And I completely understand that there isn't enough information out there, and I completely understand there's absolutely nothing wrong with just being ignorant about it and not understanding. It's how you go about it. I understand that, yeah, if you have this idea of what an autistic person is, I understand why you'd think, oh, but that person doesn't look autistic. I don't, fine, yeah, if you think that, fine, but you could go about it in a nicer way and say, actually, can you explain to me, because this person I know is autistic, but they're very different, instead of just saying, but you don't look like that person, so you're not autistic. Like I've absolutely no problem with people not understanding and people asking questions.
Sure.
It's when they decide to just
they're kind of shoving you down, going,
yeah,
well, this can't be. It's like, yeah, one of my daughters went to school and she got glasses, and the teacher said, you don't need glasses, there's nothing wrong with your eyesight. Like, opticians don't test people's eyes and give them glasses for no reason, but like, it's exactly the same as you. It's just like the stupidity of it, like, sometimes. But
so many people just think they have the right to
have an opinion.
Yeah, to have an opinion on, like, like I said, I'm telling you I'm autistic. I'm not asking you, am I autistic?
I'm not inviting you to diagnose me or analyze me. Yeah, there's a lot of people nowadays who love to analyze, isn't there?
But that's why now that I'm much more self-aware, I'm also happy to kind of turn around and say to someone, well, what do you think autism looks like? Or give me a reason why I can't be autistic,
Yeah.
And I'll say I'll I'll tell them the right information.
Sure.
I'm
So
more
how did you get into the SNA? How did you come up with this idea, Rebecca?
so it was always kind of in the back of my mind, maybe it would be something I would do. And then when I started kind of volunteering with like charities like to do with autism and stuff like that, I realized that I could actually kind of use my experience, my advantage, and that being an SNA is kind of, it gives me the opportunity to kind of give the support that I know could have helped me. So it's not only what I read in the books and what and what
I know you have experience.
It's kind of more, I have that empathy and I love being able to use that. I think that's the main thing. I just love being able to give people the help that I didn't get. And I've also learned so much more about myself. I didn't realize how much of like a learning, like how much of a like self-discovery journey it was going to be, becoming an SNA, because these kids who, like I said, I was thinking, how did they not notice it in me?
I suppose it's reflecting back and you're going, yeah, wow, I was like that.
It's kind of like it makes sense now. And then obviously doing the course and learning, more in depth about autism, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's the first time I ever really sat down and studied it, because I never really saw the need to, but because this was my job. I'm and I like, that's my favorite part about the job. It's just discovering more about myself every day. I kind of didn't think that was possible. I kind of didn't think, by now at 26, like, everything about yourself, but you don't.
Definitely not. And everybody changes. I mean, I'm a lot older than you, but everybody changes throughout their whole life. And like, the things that you do change, but you do keep learning about yourself constantly, and like what you're capable of doing, and I suppose what things bother you and what things don't bother you. I mean, I still hate lots of really loud noises. But I didn't actually, I wasn't aware of that until a friend of mine actually said it to me, because she noticed where we'd sit in restaurants, like we'd go to Evoke and I'd say, no, not sitting over there. And she'd say, why do you not want to sit over there? And I said, because that's where all the knives and forks are in sections. And I said, when they come along, start banging them in, I said, I can't stick the sound of it. And then she said, we were somewhere else, and she goes, we won't sit over there. And I said, why? She goes, it's really noisy, you won't like it. So it doesn't bother me to the same extent as it might bother you, but I still am not, you know, I would never choose to sit in a really, really noisy place. I would rather somewhere a bit calmer. And we were in America during the week, and mother of God, there's so many ladies in the morning, and women's voices just are louder sometimes. And they had, like, it's the kids are off school, so there's toddlers, and after about half an hour's gone, oh my God, it was like so loud. After a while I was going, right, I think we'll go now, go for a walk.
Yeah.
So what are your plans for the future? Have any big plans or anything, Rebecca?
I suppose, as well as being an SNA, I love writing.
Okay.
So I've
read some of your articles, they're very good.
Thank you. So I do volunteer. I volunteer with the mental health reform. I volunteer with the National Suicide Foundation of Ireland.
Okay.
I did volunteer with Spun Out, but when I was 25, they kicked me out.
Yeah, that's where I saw your articles on Spun Out. I shared one of them yesterday. I'll just keep sharing them during the week so people can learn a bit more about you, and they have great insights as well into the younger person's mind. So is there a rule that you can't write for Spun Out once you're over 25?
It's 16 to 25-year-olds. That's
okay,
the age for volunteers. But I kind of, like with the mental health reform and things like that, I'm on the grassroots forum, which is a lived experience forum. So it's a group of people who have actual experience with mental illness in their life, whether it's personal, whether it's a family member. And basically our insight is important, because obviously there's only so much professionals can know, but
that's true, because a lot of professionals probably haven't even experienced mental health problems themselves. Theirs is more of a experience from their clients and from their training, but maybe not as much personal experience.
Yeah, like for the future, I want to keep doing things like that, maybe expand on it, maybe become more of an advocate. Because like I said, even the reason about being an SNA is it is a similar lived experience. It's an insight that I think, like, especially with mental health, if you can use that in a positive way, like, yeah, I went through so much with mental health, but if I can use that in a positive way and build on that, then that's,
I suppose, like, so that maybe other teenage girls don't have to go through the same trauma that you experienced, if they had someone like you, like a mentor that can help them through it, negotiate. Because like you said, being a teenager is tough at the best of times.
Yeah.
But if you're struggling with your mental health, and to be fair, I think an awful lot of teenagers struggle with their mental health.
Yeah, definitely.
Just some to a more extreme level than others. And would you like to, do you see yourself in the future writing books or anything like that, Rebecca?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
And that has always been on my mind. Because I do love to write, like I said, with the articles, I like poetry. I've always loved English in school. Like I said, I did English in Maynooth, but it was, oh my God, English in college is so different.
Really?
It's not, like, it's basically you just have to dedicate your entire life to reading.
Okay.
So I loved English in school. I loved it.
Yeah,
but,
I do too, yeah.
It's not the same. But yeah.
I've never been to an English college lecture. It always sounds really nice. And I think maybe outside of Ireland. I always think when I listen to some American lectures and all, they have a very different way of doing stuff. Yeah, I didn't really, I mean, I love reading, and but you have to have time for reading, and I think you have to be in the right frame of mind. So I actually have to be relaxed to enjoy reading. If I'm really stressed, I find it much more difficult. Like, so when I go on holidays, I could, like, I went away for a month one time and I read 40 books, but
40 books.
40, yeah.
Oh my God.
But I would never get through the same amount when I'm at home. And because, like, I'd read for a few minutes in the morning or a few minutes in the evening, but then you get distracted by loads of different things. So I can imagine, like, college is a stressful experience. So
Yeah,
having to read takes away probably some of the enjoyment as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So is there any specific type of books you like reading, Rebecca?
I love true crime,
True crime.
but I also love I love books. I love more like I do love fiction about autistic people or about people,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
like have you ever read Eleanor Oliphant? It's
I
completely
have read that, yeah. Yeah, it's
or
very
the
good.
Rosie
Yeah.
Project. Have you read that?
Sorry?
The Rosie Project.
Yes, I've read them as well, yeah.
So
They're
I
very
love like that, like
their Rosie Project is fabulous. There's 3 of them, isn't there?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I love it because it's quirky and it's funny
It is.
and it's
I actually just read a very good book. It's got nothing to do with autism or anything, but it's a very good book. It's called The Covenant of Water. Now, it's a really thick book, and it's about like 5 generations in India, but it's a super book. Because I like books that are interesting. The Rosie Project ones were brilliant. I like, you're
yeah,
gonna have to, they're the kind of ones, yes, that I would read at home, because you know they move along and you're trying to see what's going to happen next.
yeah. They're
Yeah,
easy. It's
they
light.
are. Yeah, yeah. And everyone I know that read them likes them. Okay, so it was lovely chatting to you, Rebecca. I know
Yeah,
you're flying off somewhere nice.
we're actually very.
Oh, you're getting the ferry. Okay, what
Yeah,
time is your ferry at?
it's not till 2:45.
Okay, so very good. So the ferry is nice as well. Sometimes
No,
it's,
I've never gotten it before.
yeah,
Uh,
no. And my husband worked on the car ferries before I met him when he was a teenager. Yeah, and he loved them. And so he loves them. Sometimes I feel seasick on them and sometimes I don't. I don't know why.
yeah, I get very travel sick in cars and buses, so
Yeah.
I'm hoping.
Well, if you stay up on the deck, that's what he used to always say. The fresh air always helps. And he recommends eating. Don't go on them with an empty stomach.
Okay,
Yeah.
good advice. I'll go stuff my face now.
So what if you had a few pieces of advice to give to anyone who's listening to this, moms or teenage girls or even young adults like yourself, what would you say? What would you recommend if they're struggling, I suppose?
It's all about self-awareness
Yes.
and educating yourself. Once you're self-aware, that's the key, I think. And when you know yourself and you know how you work and what you like, what you dislike, what helps you, what doesn't help you, that's it. That's kind of a good start anyway.
Yeah, it is a good start, yeah, I suppose. So trying not to just to fit in just for the
And
sake of it.
yeah, like, and then for parents, say education as well, like educate yourself and you know, like, but not too much. Also get to know if you're obviously if you have a child who is neurodivergent, obviously yes, educate yourself, but then remember that your child is
Your
an individual
child.
person and they're going through, like, it's not a textbook thing. It's yeah, I think
No, you are right. All,
yeah,
I mean, because I have 3 children, all adults now, but they're still my children. All very different, and they all need like different things at different times in their life. And I suppose listening is probably one of the key things, isn't it? Because like one of them just likes you to sit there and like watch Harry Potter or something. The other one likes you to go for a walk. You know, everybody likes something different and will talk to you at a different time. Like I remember my son wouldn't tell you anything unless you went for a cup of coffee with them, and then like on a one-to-one, and not if you question them, I suppose. You have to be, I think, relaxed, and like you said, when you've too much information, sometimes you tend to be trying to impose that knowledge that you've learned on the other person, and that may not be what they want, and not what they need either.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. My parents are great. They always have been.
Yeah.
So that was great for me, you know, like I'll always say I was so lucky. I still am. It's still great.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Look how great you turned out, Rebecca. I mean, you're very accomplished, I have to say. I was very impressed when I met you. But then I just love young people anyway. I think you just have to, I think you just have to be relaxed and just chat to people. And my mother or my granny used to just say, oh, you have to take people the way you find them. So I think that's
yeah, that's good.
It's good expression, yeah. Right, I shall go and let you get on with your day, Rebecca. It was fabulous talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And like I said, I'll be sharing this probably on Tuesday, and I'll continue to share your articles. And if anybody wants to talk to Rebecca, where can they find you, Rebecca?
My Instagram is Rebecca O Brien. I'm actually working towards making a mental health Instagram account.
Okay,
so
good job.
That should be coming soon. But at the moment, yeah, that's my Instagram. And then my email address, bobrienrebecca97@gmail.com, if anyone wants to send an email. Sorry.
Perfect. Okay, and you can find me on all social media platforms as either Anne-Marie Beggs or the Paragraph Challenge. And have a great day, everybody.
You too.
Take care. Thanks for chatting, Rebecca.
Bye.